From America's heartland, welcome to Dulcimerica.
Hello everybody, welcome to Dulcimerica. My name is bingfutch, and today I thought I'd do something very different and show you how you can stand up and play the mountain dulcimer. Now a lot of people have asked me about that because back in the day when I was in a band called Mojave back in 1999, when we first started out, I played dulcimer like pretty much we all play mountain dulcimer, sitting down on a chair. But we were a three-piece rock band, and with all that energy going on stage, I felt like I wanted to be able to walk around and really engage the audience, and so I said, we've got to make a way for me to stand up. Well, I'll tell you, it was not an easy journey, but I found a way and developed a technique, and I'd like to share that technique with you. Now, why would you want to use this technique? First of all, I will be honest with you. When you're playing the mountain dulcimer, standing up, there's a lot of shimmying and moving around and so forth. And so if you're looking to play something very precise and play it to the very best of your ability, sitting down is going to be the best way to go, absolutely. You just want that stability so that you can really concentrate on what the right hand and the left hand are doing. But if you're just playing rhythm and just strumming, and you really want to have some fun and walk around, especially if you're playing, say, a Renaissance festival or a rendezvous, or just strolling around a festival with dulcimer players. It's a fun thing to do, and you don't have to be limited by sitting in the chair. So let me show you a couple of things that'll get you started, and then I'll share with you some techniques on how you can make it all come together. So the first thing I'm going to do here is show you the strap button situation. Now, I have not converted these yet. I don't stand up and play as much as I did when I was in the band. So these are just normal strap buttons that are on this dulcimer. But the first thing that you want to do is you want to get strap locks. Strap locks are just exactly what they sound like. They are locks, and they are a two-piece invention. One part of it is the actual strap button, and then the other part of it is a lock, and it remains attached to your strap. And what you do is you just slide that piece onto the strap button and it locks, and there's just no way that's going to come falling off of there. This is really super important if you're going to be taking your precious dulcimer and letting it hover, you know, above the ground like this. Using normal strap buttons, there's always going to be a chance, a probability that this, you know, leather or whatever you've got down there will become loose and come off, and when that happens, one end of the dulcimer will drop. So you'll want strap locks at the bottom of the instrument, at the tailpiece, and also at the head. Now, here's a point about the head, and I'll take the tuner off of here so you can see better. Where this strap button is right here underneath the headstock is where a lot of people have their strap buttons. This is not the best situation for keeping the dulcimer under control while you're playing it. The reason being is you want to be able to hold the dulcimer by the strap, and you want to be able to hold it so that when you're holding the strap, the dulcimer will not try to turn over. You want it so that its default setting is going to be hanging straight down. That's less fighting against the gravity of the dulcimer, and more of you being able to play it and manage some of the other squirrely tendencies that'll take place. But with the strap button underneath the headstock like that, of course, the strap is going to pull against the closest side to you, and it's going to cause that dulcimer to want to fight and go in this other direction. So ideally, and when I was doing this, I was basically using scroll heads, and like scroll heads in gravy. Scroll heads have a lot of energy, a lot of mass, a lot of wood up here, so you can comfortably drill a strap button in there and not worry about it, working its way loose or stripping the hole. Now, I have been told by some makers that using a flat headstock, it can be done here as well, depending on how that headstock is laminated and how it's positioned on the instrument. But ideally, you want the strap button to be at the very, very tippy edge of the instrument. And this accounts for a couple of things. One, by having it on the dead center at the headstock and at the tailpiece, you'll be able to hold that dulcimer with your strap. Now, the idea here is you want to drill the hole so that it hangs with the string side up. So that means that you're going to want to drill a little bit higher at the headstock and at the tailpiece. If you drill lower, then you'll have more weight of the dulcimer up top, and it'll want to go back and forth. So the higher you go, the more it's going to want to hang out, because most of the weight of the dulcimer will be beneath that point where you're drilling the hole. And you want that dulcimer not to fight against you, for one thing. The other thing is that when you have the dulcimer around you with the strap, as you can see here, with the strap button this close to me, when I go down here to my first fret, I have to contend with a strap that's in my way. And we're already, once again, fighting a lot of different things here in order just to be able to play nearly as well as we would if we were sitting down. So having the strap at the end of your headstock will give you a lot of clearance, and you'll be able to reach this area without any difficulty whatsoever. So once again, strap locks, and try, if you can, to get the button on the edge, on the very, very tippy top of the headstock, so that you won't be impeded when you're trying to play here. Okay, now as far as the strap, wide is good, obviously, because it's more comfortable. You're going to be hanging on to this thing, and it's going to be contacting your body right here over the shoulder. The more narrow, the more it's going to dig down into your shoulder. You can get pads and put them up here. Back in the day, I used to carry or wrap a whole bunch of bandanas around the strap here, and oftentimes would take a bunch of those bandanas and position them right where the strap meets my shoulder, so that I had a cushion there and it didn't dig in too much. So whatever you want to do, just be aware of the wider straps, though. That might affect how things are moving and swinging and so forth. So be aware of that. And but otherwise, choose whatever strap's going to be most comfortable for you. And once again, that test, you want to be able to hold the strap, dangle the mountain dulcimer from the strap, and the frets should remain upwards. If it starts to tilt one way or the other, you're going to want to drill that hole on both ends a little bit higher, so that the center of gravity allows for the dulcimer to hang out as opposed to fight against you. All right, so let's say that now you've got your strap locks, you've got your positioning, and you are ready to play. This, once again, is not easy. Now, in history, you've seen a number of people play the mountain dulcimer standing up. David Massengill plays with the frets upwards like this. But a lot of other people, like Robert Force, Butch Ross, Alan Darvaux, also play over the top with the frets facing forward like this. This is still a lot easier to manage, because as you can see, all I got to do is put my arms out in either direction. The dulcimer's not really going to go anywhere, and by putting my hands down on the fretboard and clamping down and creating chord shapes and everything else, I'm pushing the dulcimer towards me. So I'm kind of hanging on to it. It's not going to go anywhere. But when your frets side up like this, everything you do when you play is pushing the dulcimer away from you. You're pushing down with your left hand, and you're pushing down with your right hand. And that's exactly what you want, basically, because that's going to keep it nice and tight. The strap around your shoulder and around your back, just so you can see how that's looking back here. And you want that to be tight because you don't want to be moving around too much. Just by having your hand here doing the fretting, and you'll notice I've got a couple of fingers anchored down here on top of the soundboard, that you won't have it slip too much. Now, there's one thing that you're not going to see really easily, so I'm going to show you with this other camera here. Notice my forearm and my mid-arm, I guess you would call that, in between the elbow and the wrist, is actually making contact with the strap right before it connects down here to the tailpiece. I discovered early on that that is another key way of gaining control over the mountain dulcimer. If I was just to simply play and not touch that, this thing would be a lot more squirrely. But because I've got my forearm or mid-arm or whatever it is in there, tucked in, it tucks that dulcimer in and it gives me a bit more control. And the reason that that's good is the dulcimer at this point physically is only touching one part of your body. Only one part of the dulcimer is doing that, and that is the lower bout closest to you. So this thing got really slippery when I first started playing standing up, and in order to alleviate that, I took some 60 grit sandpaper and I plastered it right on that bout so that the sandpaper would catch against whatever I was wearing and it wouldn't slip around so much. That's kind of like those little pieces of material that we place on our knees when we don't want the dulcimer to slide. Same thing here. I stopped using it after a while when I gained more control, but you might, depending on the dulcimer you're playing, if you don't mind sticking sandpaper to it, that's a good way of starting out, kind of like training wheels, until you get an idea about the physicality of how you're going to manage this thing. So I've got my arm tucked in here. I always keep the anchor, and people ask me why I started anchoring. This is exactly why I began anchoring, because while you're strumming, you know, if you're playing closed fist and you're moving even a little bit, that dulcimer is connected to you by just this one point. The rest of it is floating out in midair. And so anything that you do is going to make that dulcimer bounce and jiggle and move around on you. So I use two fingers while I'm strumming, and that keeps a bit of pressure on the lower bout near the bridge. And then when I put my hands down here to chord or play melodies, then that places pressure down there, and that really keeps everything nice and tight so that you can do what you do. So I would start off by, once you get everything set up like this, practicing just strumming very, very simple things, and don't even worry about fretting just yet. Whoa, we're out of tune. I'm not exactly sure why. Okay, so just practice strumming for a little bit. And while you're strumming, just kind of shift your weight from side to side. And then you can get used to compensating when that dulcimer starts to move more in one direction or the other. Try and do it all with your right hand, and don't touch the dulcimer with your left hand. And after a while, get your left hand into the picture and just start moving around on the melody string. When you're feeling really confident about that, then start walking. And in no time, you'll start feeling it. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, the first week that I tried this, I kept saying to my bandmates, man, this ain't going to work. This is tough. This is really tough. It's a lot to manage. But stick with it, and after a while, you'll pull all the pieces together and you'll find yourself able to do this with no problem whatsoever. Now, once again, this is not for really intensely technical playing, because you really want the best of stability when you're doing that kind of thing. But if you're just kind of playing some fiddle tunes and playing some rhythm and you want to walk around and have a good time, this is a great way to do it. That really is all there is to it. Beyond that, you will find your own way to do a whole bunch of other stuff, and things that I don't exactly recommend, but you can certainly try at some point, is you know, getting used to taking the dulcimer and positioning it so you can do other things. So you're playing, and this is your playing position, and then say you want to move quickly, but all of a sudden you've got a bunch of obstacles you have to watch out for. Get used to grabbing that dulcimer, taking the pressure off of the strap, and then doing what you need to, and then getting it back into position and playing, because that's going to come up a lot as you're walking around playing somewhere. You may have to navigate through a crowd or whatever. Get used to getting it off the pressure off the strap and navigating your way through, holding the dulcimer, and then flipping it back over and playing. So if you're feeling brave, you want to hop, you want to jump, you want to spin around, this dulcimer is going to hang out with you the whole time. All you have to do is make sure that you've got 2 points of contact. Down here on the strap, and basically with your fingers draped here so that it's nice and steady where the instrument's touching you. And then the final piece, after you get those 2 points of contact, are to fret with your left hand. And then that will really keep everything nice and tight and together. So I hope this is helpful, and I would love to see a lot more people out there strolling around the festivals, playing music, standing up in the jams. Give it a shot. You've got the ability. Thank you very much for tuning in, everybody. I appreciate you. And to all of my patrons on Patreon, I love you guys so much. We'll see you next time. Rocking this RV. Woo! Our next lesson will be playing it behind your head. I'm kidding.